Haha, I forgot that my chair had a lever. Hi everybody, my name is Michelle, welcome back to my channel. If you've been here a while, you might know that each year around October or Halloween time, I like to do some sort of a Stephen King related video for obvious reasons. And this year I was like, I already have like 2 or 3 videos about Stephen King videos I like. Fuck that, let's talk about the ones that I hate. Some disclaimers I have to make so that the nerds don't yell at me in the comments. I haven't read all of them, so I can't make like a comprehensive list of the worst Stephen King books, just my own personal list of ones that I did not enjoy as much. Also, I've never read any of the Dark Tower books, so if you didn't like one of those and you're wondering why it's not on here, that's why. So first up, these are in no particular order except for the one that I like the least, which I'll save for last, but first up we have Bag of Bones. This is a book that I appreciate from a literary standpoint but don't necessarily enjoy. Like, for me it kind of feels like Stephen King had writer's block, so he's like, I'm gonna write about this writer having writer's block. Like, the story works, and on many different levels it's like kind of a compelling ghost story, but in a lot of ways it just feels sort of like disconnected, and it's just not my favorite. That's why it's on the list. Next up we got a Bachman book, Thinner. This book is an interesting concept with, in my opinion, very poor execution. Like, whenever a really short book feels like it's taking you a million years to read, you know there's something not right about it. Everything about it is just kind of meh. The characters are meh, the plot is meh, the writing is meh. Also, I would imagine this book would be incredibly, like, triggering and problematic if you come at it from the standpoint of somebody with, like, an eating disorder or something like that. So, I wouldn't recommend it in general, but especially not to anybody that's ever suffered from an eating disorder, that's for sure. Next up we have Blockade Billy. This book is like fine, like there's nothing really wrong with it, but it's just like, why does it exist as its own separate entity with the front and back cover? Like, it's very clearly a short story and not a novel, so why is it marketed as a novel? Also, this book is not for people who are not fans of baseball, and I don't like baseball at all. It's probably my least favorite sport in existence, so yeah, I don't know why I read this, but I wish I hadn't. Next up we have another Bachman book, a dare I say controversial one, Rage. This book is actually no longer in print. You can't buy and read it even if you wanted to, but I have it in my ancient hand-me-down copy of the Bachman books, and I read it when I was a young teenager, like 13-ish, and I just remember feeling like this is such utter bullshit. If you don't know what it's about, this is about a school shooting. This teenager gets really pissed off and he's got a horrible home life and all this stuff going on, and he decides he's gonna kill his algebra teacher, and then he takes his class hostage. And as a teenager reading about this teenager getting pissed off and wanting to kill his teacher, I was like, yeah, I get it. But then the rest of the novel kind of spiraled and went into a different direction, and I was just like, this is such utter bullshit. Like, this would never happen. Like, just would never happen. It was like, through this book, I could feel 1977 Stephen King talking to 2008 Michelle, and I was just like, calm your tits, Steve. Next up we have a weird one, From a Buick 8. I feel like everybody I talk to about this book has sort of mixed feelings on it. Like, I know a lot of people that really like it and think it's really interesting, and I know a lot of people that think it's just absolute garbage. I fall somewhere in between, I think. There are definitely interesting bits, but this is a book that is not a full story at all. Like, it's disjointed, it's kind of messy and all over the place, and I guess that's kind of the point of it, but I don't think that it reads very well. Like, this is another Stephen King book that is really dense and hard to get through because it's not really a story. Like, there's a line in this book somewhere where it's like, tell me a story with a beginning and middle and end. I deserve that. Well, I deserve that too, Stephen, and you didn't give it to me. I feel like I was lied to. Oh boy, next up we have the Tommyknockers. Even Stephen King himself does not like this book. There's this great Rolling Stones article that I wish I had on hand, but he basically says in it, there's a good short book hidden inside of this long book, and I definitely agree. Like, the first 2/3 of this book, decent, I can hang, but the last 1/3, oh buddy. It's just like scattered and messy and weird. It's like, good try, Stephen, but go to rehab, okay? You need help. Next up we have a controversial one. I feel like this is the one that people are gonna be really mad at me about, but I don't really like Funland all that much. It's not that I don't like it, actually. That's kind of a lie. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. You can check if you really want to. But I feel like with this one, there's such a good, meaningful, deeper story hidden underneath the surface, and I just really wish it had been like sort of brought out more. Like, I feel like I read a story but the other story was going on in the background, if that makes any sense. And I just really kind of wish that was a little bit flipped. But even though this isn't one of my favorite Stephen King books, I will admit, like, it's a cool setting, it's really great characters, really well written. I do recommend this one. Like, this is my most highly recommended one on the list. Ooh, next we have Dreamcatcher. This book is just a certified mess. Like, most Stephen King books have their fans and their haters, but I don't really know anybody that likes this one. Like, if you do, good on you, but I don't understand why. It's messy, and it's all over the place, and it doesn't really make any sense. There's a lot of parts that are just, like, laughably bad and silly, like the shit weasels, and it all goes downhill from there. Like, this is the first book that Stephen King wrote after his accident that almost killed him. And you can tell, like, the pain and suffering that he was going through at the time is, like, written all up into these pages, and it's just kind of hard to read, even if you did like the story, which I don't. So, yeah, I would give this one a pass unless you really want to read a bad Stephen King book. Next up we have Insomnia. Full disclosure, this is the only book on the list that I didn't even bother finishing. Like, it was big, and it was tedious, and it was long, and it dragged, and I didn't care, and I have a million other books to read, so bye Felicia, you know? And that brings me into my least favorite Stephen King book of all time. With the other ones, I'm like, oh, they have redeeming qualities, but this one, not at all. I hate everything about this book, and that is Cell. Why this, of all Stephen King books in my collection, is the one that I have readily available at this house, I'll never know. This is a book where a zombie apocalypse happens because of cellular phones. I read this when I was in high school, and I didn't have a cell phone, but I desperately wanted one because everybody else had one, and I was just like, fuck you, Stephen. Like, I love Stephen King and I respect him, but like, every once in a while I read something that's just really annoying and like pretentious, and I'm just like, no. No. Like, I came here for the zombies, not the social commentary. Could you just like take it down a notch, please? It's boring, it's slow, it's not scary. It's a waste of my time. Really don't like this book at all. 1 star. And those are my least favorite Stephen King books. Feel free to let me know what your least favorites are in the comments below, and I'm sorry if I bashed one of your favorites, but like, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. Unless your asshole got torn out by a shit weasel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I will see you with another video tomorrow. Bye.